Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sports Sit-Down. We're so glad you can join us today for our episode. We're going to cover the NBA, the MLB, and NFL if we have time. Today, joining me is Kiran Costa, Nate Martin, and CJ Roulo. I'm Sunay Sanghani, your host for today's show. We're so excited because it seems like we've gone through 3 months of no sports, and now all of a sudden it's becoming really, really busy. I found myself, and I'm sure they do as well, watching TV and catching up on the games, and we're really scrambling because there's one after the other. There's so many games. The NFL is going to start up, so hopefully we can cover everything today. But let's get started with the NBA. The playoffs have started. We're going to fill out a bracket right now and try to see if we can figure out who's going to win the NBA championship in the bubble, because it's not gone as expected. If I remember correctly, I think all of us picked the Bucks and the Clippers to make it into the NBA Finals, almost, except for CJ, who had the Raptors going strong.
I think I had the Raptors as well. I think.
Okay, so me and Kieran look very dumb right now, but you two are still in contention. Let's go ahead and fill out that bracket and let's talk through it. And I think the biggest thing about this playoff that's taken me by shock, and I'm sure everyone, is that the Milwaukee Bucks guys, they're down 3-0 right now. The rest of the series is still a to be determined, but the Milwaukee Bucks are basically out, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, not necessarily. I think Milwaukee still has a very good team. I mean, they're one of the most talented teams in the league. We know that. We know how good they've been in the regular season. But I think the main reason why so many people caught by surprise by this was because it's Miami. This is a team led by second and third year players plus Jimmy Butler, and they've been super fun to watch, and they've been kicking butt all bubble while no one else has been watching. So is this a surprise to me? Not really.
No. I mean, okay. I'm not. I was surprised that the Bucks are down 3-0 in the second round, but like I think we talked about this last show that Miami was a contender. We talked about this early in the bubble too. I think Nate and I picked them as like our surprise in the bubble, or me and Snay maybe. I think they're a great team. We saw it before they finally started to heat up before the shutdown, and they were great in the bubble. They haven't lost in the playoffs. They've won their first 7. And
that's right. That's true. But I mean, the other thing that I think I've been taken aback by is just the lack of shooting from the Bucks, and the great shooting by Jimmy Butler and the Heat, which is really making the difference. But Nate, you're still saying that the Bucks are not out of it? Is that what you're?
Yeah, because you can never count out the reigning MVP, who can easily be a repeat MVP. I don't like it because of the way he hasn't been able to lead his team in the playoffs. But
I mean,
he's still the best player in the league. You can't count out the best player in the league.
Yeah, we obviously can't count out the Bucks. Like, I think they push it to 6, maybe even 7. But I'm still going to think –
It will have to go to 7. It will have to go to 7.
I still think Miami.
That's the only way they can win.
So it'll have to, or it is? We need predictions here, Nate.
Yeah.
I'm rocking with Miami in 5. I think Bucks will take a game.
All right. I think we're all in unison though, because I'm picking Miami as well. I don't think 3 games is. I'm just putting him in right here. But I mean, that's a tough thing to come back from 3-0 in my opinion, because
never happened.
Think about it. They haven't been in normal life. I'm just thinking about the psychological standpoint. You haven't seen normal life in 3 months, and now you're down 3-0. The other opposing team's only 1 game away from moving on, while you're 1 game away from going back home, going to normal life. Even though the families are out, some families are still not in the bubble yet. You're going back to see your families, your parents, your friends. I think that's just psychologically really hard to come back from. But like you said, can't count out Giannis. But if he does lose, all I'm saying is come home. The Bay Area is going to welcome you with open arms.
It's obviously not affecting Jimmy Butler. I saw a really good tweet where someone was like, Jimmy Butler's the guy in the reality TV show that says, I'm not here to make friends. He's just there all business. Like, I think after his 40-point performance in game 1, he just hit the gym. And you love to see it. He's been one of my favorite players to watch this bubble.
Yeah, he did bring his family to the
Yeah.
bubble, which is interesting. Okay, the next series we have in the East, there is the Celtics and the Raptors, and the Raptors could have saved themselves with the OG Anunoby buzzer beater, game-winning three with zero point 0.5 seconds remaining, one of the best games I've seen in the bubble. Who do we have moving on there?
I mean,
I mean,
personally, I'm sticking with Toronto. I mean, they for the most part they've been through this before. They faced the Warriors a couple years ago. They're still strong. I mean, we know without Kawhi Leonard, they're not going to be as good as they have been in the past. But Kawhi is such a game changer. You can't do that. My thing with Boston is, they're so young. I mean, Carson Edwards at 22, Taco Fall 25, Romeo Langford 21. Even Marcus Smart. I mean, he's not young at any means. 26. Jason Tatum at 22. But it's just the real question is, do they have this experience necessary to move on? I mean, Toronto's essentially been in the playoffs the last couple of years. They kind of know this now. Boston's been in it a couple times, but it's been a little bit of an earlier round exit for them. So my real question is, can Boston's lack of playoff experience help them, or is it going to hurt them, especially against a good Toronto team who's been here in the past?
I think
completely disagree with you, CJ.
Yes, yeah.
I completely disagree with you.
And this is why, because maybe that applies in a regular format. But I mean, like the seeding games in the playoffs, like there's barely a difference. Like, yes, like the stakes are higher, and you know that, and you're playing it for a series. But I mean, it's still the same amount of crowd noise, none. Same amount of like fans, none. Like, I don't think playoff experience matters in this case, and they have the veteran leadership they need. With like Tatum's young, but he has the experience. He's been in the playoffs every year. Kemba, this is the first time out of the first round for him in the playoffs, but he's still a veteran. He's still leading that team. I'm gonna take the Celtics, and I'm gonna take the Celtics in 6.
I don't know how for me, the series was open and shut after heading into the fourth quarter of Game 3, and then Toronto came back, and it's like, okay, maybe Toronto can come back somehow, but I just think that's not possible. I think
the Celtics played better in all 3 games of the series.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
The Celtics played extremely well against a good 76ers team, and you can't just use the excuse, but they're young. These players have played every single years of their career in the playoffs. They have playoff experience. I think they were in – I can't remember if they were in the conference finals of the second round last year, but they played very well. Second round.
Second round last year in conference finals the year before.
The year before that, yeah.
Yeah, they have playoff experience.
But I'll say this. I don't know if CJ's all that off, though, because if you think about – I agree with you guys 100%. I'm just bringing out an interesting point here. A lot of analysts and the guys we see on TV, ESPN, former players, are saying the same thing that CJ's saying. And I've always wondered why, because like you said, Nate, they have experience in the second round conference finals. It's just interesting because a lot of people did not pick them to move past the second round or the conference finals. And now with the Bucks doing that, it seems as if they're the favorites to move on to NBA finals, which is really interesting.
Wait, So Nate, who are you taking? I did not get a clear answer from you. I'm taking Celtics in 6. CJ's taking Raptors.
I'm taking Celtics in 5.
5. I think I'm with you. I think I'm taking Celtics in. Nah, I can't do that. Celtics in 6. I gotta have a little bit of faith in the Raptors. But I'm also gonna put a question mark here because I can't do my man CJ dirty like that. But I'll go ahead and write Boston here for now, but we're going to come back to this in future shows when everything's said and done at the end of September, and we're going to see who's right, and the prize will be bragging rights. But CJ has been very, very much a fan of the boys in 905 Raptors. Okay, so moving on to the West now. This is where things are a little bit murky but clear at the same time, because one series is murky, one series is, to me, really clear. Nate, who do you have winning the Clippers and the Nuggets?
I'm taking Clippers. I mean, I love that Nuggets team. I've always been a fan of the Jokic, and playoff Jamal Murray has been great. But you cannot go against Kawhi Leonard. Pandemic P looks to be over. He's had a good couple games since his horrible performance in the early round against the Mavericks. So I think I'm going to be taking the Clippers 4, maybe 5.
Clippers in 4. I mean, the Nuggets just looked outmatched in game 1. The Nuggets are gassed. I mean, they played an insane, intense 7-game series and only had 2 days rest. You saw Jamal Murray in his press conference after Game 7 with Scott Van Pelt. He was shocked when he heard they only had 1 day off before playing again. And I think the fatigue already set in Game 1. I mean, they were blown out by like 25 or something. And I think the fatigue's going to continue to set in. Clippers in 4.
Yeah, no, definitely. And coming off of that, Kiran, I mean, Clippers playing a decent Dallas team, not superstar, but Denver having to face, a team, Utah, who's really good. I mean, I think they were slightly – I don't want to say they were underseeded at 6, but I think that's a little harsh because we know how good the team Utah's been. So, I mean, and then that goes 7 games. So, yeah, that 1-day break is definitely killer, especially when you get to this kind of time because you need all the time you need between series to rest up. LA had 6, so they had a couple more days off. I think they had probably 1 more day off. But, no, that Clippers team is going to win. I'm saying Clippers in 5.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just can't go for a clean sweep there, but I'll go with them, Clippers in 5 as well. And the reason why I can't go clean sweep is just because of Jamal Murray. But I think you're right. The fatigue to be down 3-1 and come back to win 3 straight games, that's a tough ask. That's a really tough thing to do, especially when you're all the games that you think about it, Game 5, Game 6, Game 7, all of them were close. All of them required all the Nugget stars to play in there. They're still fairly injured. Gary Harris coming back from injury. Jamal Murray, even though he's been playing well, he still was injured 2 weeks ago. And the other thing that's a factor is that I think Jokic defensively is just I mean, this might be another debate for another time, but I still don't see why people are saying he's the best center in the NBA because I think defensively he's not as good. And I had the Clippers completely exposed that last night in Game 1. So Clips in 5/4. Who had Nate? You had him going in 4?
I had him going in 4.
I had 4 as well.
4, okay. So CJ and I have 5. You guys have 4. But this next series, I think, is the most interesting, in my opinion, because the Rockets seem like heavy underdogs. Also, talk about fatigue. They just played a long 7-game series. And the Lakers have been rested, but they've not been as good in the bubble. But yet they're still number 1 seed, and they have LeBron James. The Rockets took Game 1. Who's winning that one, Kiran?
I'm sticking with H-Town, baby. Nate and I picked them to advance earlier, and I'm sticking with them. They looked good in Game 1. LeBron did not look good. Anthony Davis was one of the only bright spots in that Game 1. He had a good fourth quarter in sort of throwaway minutes. But, I mean, okay, yes, I feel like Lakers fans are freaking out a little too much, Phil. I mean, they lost Game 1 to the Blazers and then just shut the door there. But I think this Houston team is better. Westbrook did not play well last game. Westbrook had an insane amount of turnovers, and they won by 20. And Westbrook still hasn't found his rhythm since returning from injury. And I think he's going to find that in this series, and I'm taking Houston in 7.
And the main thing about Houston this playoffs, besides Harden absolutely balling out of his mind, has been role players stepping up. Covington, Gordon, Tucker has been playing extremely well. I've been a big fan of PJ Tucker this playoffs. And even if he is a 6'5" center, the man is 250 pounds. He's got a 7-foot wingspan. He can defend Anthony Davis. I think he's going to show that in the upcoming games. I'm going to be rocking with Houston in 6 or 7. I think Dieter, watch our Dieter Kurtenbach interview. He goes in about why the Rockets are a serious championship contenders, and I agree with him on every single reason.
Yeah, and this is one where I'm going to say this. I think the Lakers are going to do it in 6, just personally, because that team is so good, and the fact that they've actually managed to put aside, I'm the star. You've got so many good players on the Lakers right now. Yeah, okay, fine. They lost the first game by 23. They were also off for a bunch of days. So how much of that is they're not playing well, and how much of that is you're trying to re-kickstart the engine, especially after, you just beat Portland in 5. Houston, with the 2 off days, then they play 3 more games, and LA only had to play 1. So it's essentially LA's like, hey, you just had 4 days off. Hey, here's a game. Go play it. You expect to do well. I'm not expecting them to do well with 4 days off. That's longer than they have most of the time in a regular season. Yeah. Exactly. So it's one where it's like, hey, you just got an extended break. Go play a game. You're completely rusty. I think Lakers are going to be able to do it in 6.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like I'm agreeing with CJ today a lot. I just can't doubt the King. I mean, we talked about this earlier in the month with Blazers and Lakers. A lot of people had the Blazers winning. I just don't see how you can give LeBron 4 shots to win, or not even 4, 5 to 6 shots to beat James Harden and Russell Westbrook, who are notorious for not doing well in the playoffs, and he just doesn't perform.
Harden's looked insane every single game, except
In
one.
game 7, he was
you got
the
to look
reason.
at the past history though. James Harden is just, and even this OKC Thunder team, the Rockets should have won that in 5-6 games. The Thunder don't have a superstar. They have Chris Paul, but he's not a superstar.
But Dieter Kernbach brought that up. He said, every single time that there's been a Game 7, it's either been in Roracle, which is like the loudest arena in the country, or was, and then it's been in Houston. And Houston fans were just expected to go for Golden State to run through them. So without any fans, the bubble Rockets, they may have been a little bit inconsistent. The same can be said for the Lakers, and that's my one concern with the Rockets. If there has been one team that has been more inconsistent than the Lakers, it's been the Rockets. But I still can't go against James Harden, who's been one of the best players of this playoffs.
I agree with Nate.
I mean, I see why James Harden is so appealing, but I mean, I have to take you back to Game 7. He played good defense and all that, but Game 6 and Game 7, when it was 2 must-wins for the Thunder and where the Rockets could have closed it out. To me, James Harden completely disappeared in the crunch time closing minutes. And that's been my problem with James Harden.
Okay,
repeatedly, not just this year, repeatedly. Against the Warriors, they had a 3-2 lead in 2018. James Harden had 2 fourth quarters to close it out where they were up and had a good lead. He couldn't do it. Last year, same thing. That's the thing with James Harden is that I just can't trust him.
No, okay, and I'll give you that point. But let's look at Game 7 against Oklahoma City, right? He was terrible, and they still won. All the other years, he was terrible, and no one else stepped up.
Yeah,
Last time, he was terrible, and Daniel House stepped up. Russell Westbrook stepped up.
The Lakers aren't able to count. The Lakers aren't able to count on their role players like Houston is. The Houston role players have stepped up when they needed to.
I agree it's going to be closer than probably I'm meaning for it to be, but I just think that the Harden was playing against Chris Paul and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 2 good players, but they do not compare whatsoever to Anthony Davis and LeBron James. I'm sorry.
Do you see James Harden guarding Anthony Davis? I mean,
I did, and Anthony Davis did pretty well in my opinion. The guards
in Houston, the guards in the Lakers. Let's see, you have LeBron at small forward, obviously, but then you have who at point guard, who at shooting guard. You got Caldwell Pope. Green. You got Caldwell Pope and Danny Green or one of those lineups. Danny Green has not had the best playoffs. Caruso has not had the best playoffs. You can't count on them.
Rondo hasn't played in 5 months, and he played like extended minutes yesterday, right?
Okay, so I guess we have to move on, considering timing. But
I'll take the Lakers. The Lakers.
I'll put a question mark here, but let's just see. I think we're going to reach an agreement though because of this next battle.
Clippers.
Yeah.
I think the Clippers.
Clippers go into the finals. That's a given. That's a given.
Yeah. So whoever, but I mean, I think we're all in. That's what I was saying. Whoever comes through in this series, they're still going to have to face the Clippers, and I think we all have the Clippers moving on.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I don't know how many games it's going to be in, but I would assume it's going to be. If it's the Lakers, I would say it's going to be 5. If it's the Rockets, I think it's 6.
Yeah.
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 I do agree with you guys that the Rockets are much harder. I just think that with LeBron James and Anthony Davis on your team, you could win. So we have the Heat and the Celtics. CJ has the Raptors coming out, but for majority of us, we have the Heat and the Celtics coming out of the East. That's an interesting series. I'm going to have Kieran have first crack at that.
Boston. I mean, Boston has looked – but Boston – okay, so Boston, of course, rolled Philly, just rolled Philly. And I know they lost. I know they lost game 3, but I think they looked like the better team in game 3 as well. Like they struggled in the 4th, but they completely outmatched them in quarters 1, 2, and 3. I think Miami's like fairy tale story is gonna run out when they run into a red hot Tatum and a red hot Kemba. I'm taking Boston in 5.
You're gonna get a fire response
I'm gonna
right now. Nate, go for it.
I'm gonna play a bit of devil's advocate here. It's the 2 hottest teams in the playoffs, and I'm gonna put Miami ahead of Boston for the hottest team in the playoffs right now because they are beating the Giannis-led Bucks. Do I think it's gonna run out in the conference finals? Yes, I'm gonna take Boston in 6 or 7. I just think Boston's experience. If we're using CJ's logic, if Boston doesn't have any playoff experience, then the Miami Heat are bottom dwellers. All right, compared to Boston, Miami doesn't have any playoff experience. This is a very young team, younger than Boston.
Iguodala's the only.
And Iguodala is the only player on that team who's made the finals, I think.
Yeah.
Crowder as a role player?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I think you got to take Boston in 7.
No.
I thought you
Miami.
were going to
Miami has one other guy. Miami has one other guy. Haslam's still playing for him. So they've got 2 guys that have made the finals.
And I mean,
okay,
and
but
Eric
that's
Spoelstra.
40.
And
That's
Eric Spoelstra.
my guy.
So you
But
guys
I'm
are both
taking
Boston.
Yeah.
CJ, what about you?
He's taking Toronto, I thought.
Well, I'm taking Toronto, but assuming we have Miami, Boston, I don't know. Honestly, this is going to be one where if Miami sweeps the Bucks and Boston and Toronto end up going longer, then I'm taking Miami just more off of. They're probably going to have a lot more momentum, and Boston's going to be feeling a lot more drained. But if Boston gets through Toronto in 5, it's going to be Boston by a mile. They're just, I think their depth is just that much better.
I'm with you here, and I'm going to put in Boston as well. And let's just go ahead and finish this out. I think we all know how this ends. I think this is going to be more interesting than people think it is going to be. In my opinion, I think this is a lot more interesting.
No, I'm going to play. I'm going to do it. I'm going to say Boston beats the Clippers. I think you cannot go against Brad
There we
Stevens.
go.
I don't think you can go against Brad Stevens, who is, in my opinion, even though his record may not show it, I think he's the most talented coach in the NBA. He's one of the best play callers. He's led an underdog team before. Do we not remember Butler in March Madness? Do we not remember Butler? I mean, you got Jason Tatum, who's been playing out of his mind. You got Jaylen Brown, who's been playing out of his mind. You got Kemba Walker, who is an incredible and underrated point guard. And then you have the rotation of Daniel Theis and a lot, in my opinion, the best bench in the league. I'm taking Boston. I'm taking Boston in 7.
Kieran, go for it.
Oh, you go first, man. I'm not sure.
I'm tempted. I'm really tempted. I'm with you. I'm so tempted, but because to me the problem with the Clippers is that they fall asleep. You know, like they fell asleep against the Mavericks. I think they could have easily beaten the Mavericks, but they just didn't take them seriously.
Sunay, there's a reason why they call it devil's advocate. I'm tempting you. I'm the devil. I'm the temptress, all right?
I can't do it.
So good.
Clips in 6.
No, Boston in 7.
Boston 7. Kieran, is that your final answer?
He bit the apple. He took it.
I want Boston in 7. Boston looks so much better than the Clippers throughout the whole bubble and in this playoffs. I mean, they like what was their performance against the Mavericks? They looked terrible until the final game. A couple of last games. I'm taking Boston in 7.
Okay, there we go. Getting interesting here. CJ, are you gonna break it even, or are you gonna
I've got
leave me on an island?
Toronto.
Well, I would take Toronto, except for the fact they haven't advanced at this point. We've got
No,
Boston
no.
and the Clippers.
I mean, you can still take them.
Yeah, take
You can
Toronto.
still take them.
To win.
All right, screw it. I'm taking Toronto then. Nah, just
All right, there we go.
I'll take Toronto.
And in a ball.
He's probably more loyal to the Raptors than Canadians are. So
Actually,
that
no,
does it for our
Canadians
bracket.
are more. But let's not talk about that.
Take a good last look at this bracket. We're gonna come back to this. I guarantee we're gonna come back to this in future shows. We're gonna have to move on here. And now let's move on to the other league that's honestly on fire. It's been pretty fun to watch. We're almost getting there with the MLB season. They're not quite in the playoff form yet, but we're getting there. The NL is heating. The NL race for the playoffs is heating up. There are a few teams in contention for that final few spots. Kiran, real quickly, we have just about 5 to 6 minutes remaining. Who is going to get the 8th seed or the final few seeds? Break it down first.
All right, so just real quick, I know we don't have a lot of time. I'm going to go Cardinals get the 7th spot, Rockies get the 8th spot, but Marlins are going to fall out. The Rockies looked very good at the start of the year. They started off like 11-2 or something. They've slowed down, but I mean, Story Arenado still hasn't found it. He'll find it. Story Arenado. Matt Kemp has somehow done well. Right. Old man, he's back. The pitching staff's the only worry. The bullpen's fine. I mean, that's going to be hard for people here in the Bay Area. The Giants are exceeding expectations. But I don't think, like, Donnie Batts, Donovan Solano, and Mauricio Dubon can play well enough down the stretch to get this spot. I'm saying Marlins fall out, Cardinals and Rockies grab the last 2 spots.
I'm going to jump in here real quick. I'm 100% with you, and Nate and CJ, if you disagree with me, feel free. But I don't think the Giants are going to make it. Go ahead, Nate.
I agree with that. But one team I do want to talk about is the Reds. I think they have one of the best starting rotations in baseball. Not right now, but just on paper. You have Trevor Bauer, who is heavily linked with the Reds. You got Sonny Gray, and you got Luis Castillo. It's a very good starting rotation. They got some great batters. Eugenio Suarez, I think that's how you pronounce it. And I think they're going to come back, and I think they're going to make it in as 8th seed or 7th seed. I also I think the Rockies are going to regain it as well. So I'm going to go Rockies and Reds.
You think both the Cardinals and Marlins fall out?
Oh, that's true. I mean, but it's not that they're 2 games behind.
All right, so
they're 2 games behind. You can make up 2 games.
But the Cardinals have games to play. The Cardinals have games to play.
Same with the Reds.
Yes, but they're both
the Reds.
Yes, but the Cardinals have played the Cubs more than the Reds have played the Cubs, and I think the Cardinals are going to take advantage of beating up on the Pirates, and I think the Reds' bats have not been hot enough. Yes, on paper, like Castellanos, Moustakas, Winker is a great team. And Luis Castillo's underperformed. Sonny Gray, he chokes. We saw him just play horrifically with the Yankees. Who knows what he's going to do? He's a wild card. But yes, coming into the year, I love the Reds. I think they're a year away. But I like that pick.
Yeah, CJ, final thoughts real quick.
Exactly, man. That's fine. Honestly, if I'm going to say anything, Marlins are going to fall out. Even though 16 and 17, they have had the wackiest year I think anyone has had in terms of baseball in the last bit. I'm going to say this, though. If the Giants can stick around the 500 mark, they're done playing the Dodgers, which is huge right now. The front loading of that actually is really helping. They could sneak in as the 8th seed. Would they be the best 8th seed? No, not necessarily. I think that the Cardinals, the Rockies, or the Reds would probably be better. But I could see the Giants sneaking in as an 8th seed. Now, for the 7th seed, that's where it gets interesting. Because if the Marlins do fall out, which I'm assuming they're going to, the Fish do this all the time, I don't know if you have the Cardinals at a 7, if you have the Rockies at a 7, if you can see the Reds hop up to be a 7. There's 3 or 4 teams you could have be a 7. Maybe someone slips down from the top and you do a little bit of reordering. So I've got the Giants locked in at an 8, but at 7 seed, I have no idea with how this season's been going on.
Well, it'll be an interesting race, something to follow. Like we said, so many sports to watch. NFL starting up in this week, in fact. we'll have the coverage for you as soon as we can. Thank you guys so much for joining. For Kiran Costa, Nate Martin, and CJ Roulo, I'm Sunay Sanghani signing out. Take care, everyone.